All right, we have the bike course record holder, Cam Wurf, with his brand new Pinarello. Walk us through how this came about in development with the team.
Yeah, I mean, it was just an amazing sequence of events. I was at home in Australia last January, and I got a phone call from Tim Kerrison, who's head of performance at Team Sky, and Chris Froome was in Australia and without a training partner, and he'd heard through the grapevine that I was good at talking. I talk a lot, so a good training partner to keep him company for his days in Australia out on the road. And yeah, I went up and I'd pretty much given up on elite sport at that point. I was looking at a career in finance or doing something different.
Oh,
and
no, awful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was actually excited about it, and anyway, I had a great sort of training camp and realised that maybe I've still got a bit more to give sport, but I knew it wasn't cycling, and we thought, well, I dabbled a bit in triathlon, and the Tim Kerrison said, well, how about we give Ironman a go? So as the year went on, I had more and more assistance from the team, and obviously their sponsors. And last year in Kona, I had the Bolide, which is the time trial bike for the team, and it seemed to work pretty well in the conditions. And after that, I got a very flattering email from Fausto Pinarello saying that they were just so pleased with what had happened, and they'd love to develop a new bike with me and enter the triathlon markets.
So this is Pinarello's first tri-specific bike.
It's their first tri-specific bike, which is amazing. I mean, they're very traditional though, and I guess they just were waiting for the opportunity. And as far as development goes, it was actually quite easy because we already had quite a fast bike, so we didn't really need to try and find anything faster. It was a very simple set of guidelines that I gave them, personally, which was keep it as fast as it is, try and keep the weight down like it was, make it very simple like it is, so it's easy for people to travel with, adjust, fit on, all those things. And and just don't make it complicated, because for us, we're traveling all over the world and pulling it apart and putting it back together, and I think they've done a pretty amazing job. It's simple but works.
So walk me through it.
Okay, so I guess the biggest changes are the tri-specific integration. So we've got the 3D printed bento box through here, and the way that was added to the bike was the whole front end of the bike is actually lower, about 2 inches lower than. Sorry, higher. That was very silly of me. Higher, about 2 inches higher than the other bike. So where I had a lot of spaces in the past up here, that has now been replaced by a higher headset, and
Okay.
which runs, which then gave us the opportunity to increase the aerodynamics of the bike with the 3D printed bento box, because it just flows through, and then also. It gives you more stability. When the extensions are so high, you kind of feel like you're a bit up on stilts, and with it being down lower, you seem to have a lower centre of gravity to the bike, and so it increases, improves your handling of the bike. And also it's moved the whole handlebar up. So on the old Bolide, it was actually sort of down here, so you needed to be quite flexible to be even able to reach the brake levers, because it's designed for an individual time trial where you don't really use them.
So that's why you didn't see the average age grouper on it.
It would have been very difficult to even fit on. So that was a big change, and it was the great thing was we could change that and improve the aerodynamics of the bike. Obviously the storage down here, pretty simple, just goes in where a drink bottle cage would have gone. And yeah, again, it's designed to improve the aerodynamics of the bike and the handling and so forth in the cross breeze. You can obviously also put a drink bottle there if you prefer, if you want to carry your spares somewhere else, but I'll be using this because, as I said, I know it makes the bike quicker. And then the other
Did they
thing,
have to change the down tube
from
their time trial?
No, that's exactly the same. And the Bolide was specifically designed to actually be faster with a drink bottle. So in the old Bolide, you would never get rid of the drink bottle. If you drank it, even an empty bottle, you needed to leave it in the frame to maximise the benefit.
Just to keep that wind laminated
Exactly.
to
It
the
sort of
surface
comes.
here instead of snapping back.
That's right.
Into the frame.
Yeah, and which is quite unique. And then the other interesting part about the new bike is that it's an inch lower to the ground, so it's easier to mount when you come out of T1. It's easier to, launch yourself onto the bike or just get on the bike in general. You've got to be a bit more careful going around corners, of course, because you're lower, but but in general, it's easier to mount the bike. And then also, you're down lower too, which is, again, increase your aerodynamics because of your lower center of gravity and you're out of the wind. So that was quite a significant change from the old bike. And then, of course, the disc brakes. That was a question they said to me, what did I think of disc brakes? I simply said, what's the future? They said, disc brakes. So I said, well, I think the problem we've got is that we have an option at the moment. So if someone wants the old, someone wants the new.
Right.
I said the quicker every manufacturer just gets to them, the better. So that's put disc brakes on it, and that's figure out how to work with it. And they were able to increase, with using the disc, they were obviously able to design the fork in a way that, again, was an improvement on the drag of the fork as opposed to the old bike, because they don't need to house any housing or anything up here or any calipers. So there's less frontal area of the bike.
Now, have they taken mass out of the rim here because they don't really need a braking surface that's really beefy?
Yeah, well, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, the wheels, they've worked with Swiss side. So the frame and the fork was developed in conjunction with Swiss side. So these wheels are the optimal combination for the bike. But yeah, you certainly got, there's no need for worrying about crushing a rim there. So I guess there's less structural support up here on the rims.
So the rolling weight, theoretical rolling
should be less.
I think you can shut it
Should
off.
be
I
less.
think it's-
Yeah. And the other interesting thing with Swiss side, where they've been able to sort of be ahead of their competitors, is the diameter of their axle for the through axle. They've been able to get it super thin, and that was the big thing that created drag. Was the fact that with the through axle you needed an oversized hub, and that was what was catching the wind. And so they've been able to make that super thin and super strong, which is obviously just as important. And then apart from that, Pinarello obviously and Team Sky have a relationship with Shimano. So all the bikes are generally fitted with Shimano with the Di2. I've got the new one. I just changed saddle. This is actually nothing fancy. This is actually a saddle I saw on Richie Port's coffee table before I came to Kona last year, and I had this non-stick stuff, and I stuck it on the bike, and and I've kept it since. Physique, we obviously have got to deal with them, and I've since been given more, but I've stuck with the trusty one from last year. It's come with me through all the bikes I've had this year, and it's just your standard Physique Arione Tri. The carbon. I believe it's a special BMC team version, which the team's now defunct, so good to have some history, some memorabilia on my bike. And Richie loves to remind me about the fact that I owe him a saddle, so it's a bit of a joke between us. But yeah, when Pinarello asked me about the colours for the new bike, I said, well, it'll have to match my seat. So this is the colour scheme, because the seat's definitely staying. So yeah, I've tried the other cutout ones, and I guess through my years of racing on the road and always using a normal saddle, particularly Physique with Cannondale, we're always sponsored by them. I'm just more comfortable with that, and that's fine.
Power meter?
Power meter? I tried a couple, and I stuck with the Pioneer just simply due to reliability. It just never buggers up on you. It's just always works. Seems to always hold calibration, and really, that's all you want in a power meter. It doesn't really matter what the reading is, as long as it's consistent. And I've found that Pioneer is probably the best for that from the ones I've tested, which has been great. I run a 56 outside chainring and 39 inner chainring, because the 56 I use in racing, I rarely go in the small chainring, and I figure if I need to go in the small chainring, then I need to have a small chainring. I don't bother with a 46 or a 42 or anything like that.
Something's terribly wrong.
Something's terribly wrong if I'm out of the big one here. So so that's my gearing, and of course an 11 through to 28. So I can run a 56 28 is still a pretty easy gear. So I've got plenty of options there. That means that I'm never wanting for an easier gear.
And what's going to be in here, here, and here on race day?
So here I'll have just the spares, so just a tube and levers and a couple of cartridges. So just the normal spares, some valve extenders and so forth, in case things go really pear-shaped. Here will be my gels. Just gels and probably a Milky Way or two or something like that, whatever much I can sort of jam in there. Up here I just run electrolytes. I'll have about 600, 800 milligrams of sodium electrolyte mix in here, and I'll carry one drink bowl at the start with the same, and on the way out I'll use bottles from the side of the road to refill this, and then on the way back I'll get another 800 milligrams of sodium mix and put that in, and then refill that. I basically sort of water it down as I go through the aid stations, just keep topping it up so that I keep just chipping away at the sodium loss. So pretty simple, super simple, and that's what I wanted, and I think that's really what the market kind of can do with, is simple. And it's exciting that Pinarello can make a fast bike that is simple.
And realistic for the average amateur to get on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the other one, really, when I compare them now, like chalk and cheese. And if you look at just my racing, the last race I did on the Bolide was Zurich. I ran a 2:58 marathon, which was the best one I'd done. And then 4 weeks later in Almere in Holland, I ran on the first race on a prototype, one of these bikes, I ran a 2:52. So, and I noticed when I go for an easy ride, maybe 3 or 4 hours, no intensity, just a general enjoyable cruise, you'll come home on a road bike or even the Bolide and you feel like you've been for a ride. Whereas on this, it is just more comfortable. You get off and you just feel better. So, I was not a believer of tri-geometry. Pinarello told me that it definitely will make a difference, so I trusted them on that part. And it's been amazing to notice the difference. And and I think psychologically it came at the perfect time, with getting ready for the biggest race of the year.
Yeah.
So,
You going to try to break the course record again?
The overall course record, absolutely.
Overall?
Yeah.
Yeah? Under 8?
That would be the plan.
Right.
Well under 8. I mean, I don't think, if we're going to go under 8, we may as well go well under 8.
The old Mark Allen, prepare for a 740 and
exactly, and then see what happens.
You're an 8.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm here to race, and it's the World Championships. There's only one World Champion, so to me there's only one position. Of course, as soon as if I'm not leading, I'm not going to walk, but I'll obviously try and finish as high as I possibly can. But I'll be giving it everything to win the race. I'm not here to just do a personal best. So I obviously won't hold back on the bike. I'll try and go as fast as possible, and we're prepared now. With this bike, we're really confident that I can not only ride as fast as possible, get off fresh and run well. So pretty simple strategy, really.
I'm into it. Right on, man.
Thanks.
Right on.
Thanks for your time.
I think I just got on camera the worst high five I've ever given.
That was, yeah.